So this is the Seeadler, a German raider put into service around the end of World War I, 1916 to be exact. She spent 255 days sailing the South Seas capturing Allied powers' trading ships until she eventually wrecked on the reef atoll of Mopilia. Now, while many people think of World War I as trenches and gas bombs, there were some of those for sure, but on the other side of the world, the Seeadler was capturing ships. There was one major difference between gas bombs and the Seeadler though, and that was the casualties. During all 15 of the successful raids that the Seeadler carried out, there was only one casualty, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on. How the kind heart of a captain can turn what is usually thought of as certain death to the losing side of a battle into an experience that they won't forget. So first, I'm going to talk about how the ship was turned from a humble merchant vessel into a fast and well-disguised raider. Then, I'll cover some details on the raids themselves, like how they were carried out and their aftermath. After that, I'll cover how they were wrecked and their attempted escape from the island, and finally, their journeys back to Germany and their legacy there. So first, let's talk about how this ship was made. The Seeadler wasn't originally a German ship. It was originally the Passive Balmaha, built in 1818 in Glasgow, Scotland, until it was captured by the German submarine U-36 in 1915 in the North Sea. The ship was quickly transformed into the Seeadler after great pains were taken to disguise it as a Scottish merchant ship, so it could break through the blockade that the British were maintaining around Germany. After leaving port, the Seeadler made its way towards the blockade that the British were maintaining around Germany. The Seeadler was actually boarded while making its way through this blockade, but due to the incredible disguise and acting that the crew was holding up during the boarding, they were let to pass. After passing through the blockade, they made their way around Cape Horn and eventually sailed towards the South Pacific. Okay, now you know how the Seeadler made it to the South Seas, so I'll cover the raids and how they were carried out. So, the Seeadler wasn't a fully fledged warship. It only had two 105mm deck guns, hidden under collapsible deck structures, two machine guns, and small arms for the crew. Because of this, the crew captured Allied ships primarily through deception, surprise, and intimidation, rather than direct, prolonged combat. Disguised as a harmless Norwegian wooden timber ship named Irma, the vessel would approach unsuspecting merchant ships, often using the ruse of needing to verify time for navigation. Then they would reveal their guns, raise the German flag, and surprise attack the ship. Now, unlike most sea battles, there was no intention to kill anyone. Prisoners were treated like guests, and even given their own bunks. In some occasions, it was reported that the crews were allowed to take their personal belongings and given time to pack their bags. So as you can see, this wasn't your average raider. This was a crew of kind individuals, but unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, so let's see how that happened. I'm now going to be touching on how this great ship met its unfortunate end, so let's get right into it. Picture this. You anchor off the small island of Mopilia, and it's a nice and sunny day. So, you decide to go into the beach for some exploration. Well, unfortunately, the day would turn to ruin. Because while most of the crew was ashore, a strong wind came up and blew the anchor off the reef, causing the ship to be blown into shore, wrecking. Thankfully, this wasn't a fast thing, which gave the crew time to get off the ship and onto the island, where they were then stranded. So, over the next 2 weeks, they stripped the ship of anything they could use to build shelters. They then burned the ship to the water. After this, Luckner and some of the crew decided to head back out to sea in one of the smaller dinghies they had rescued. They were eventually captured by local authorities after arriving in Fiji. The rest of the crew, however, had stayed behind in Mopilia, and after about 2 months of waiting, they were able to capture a French merchant vessel that had stopped at Mopilia to rest. After Luckner was captured in Fiji, he was sent down to New Zealand and eventually returned to Germany in May 1919, after the war had come to its close. As for the rest of the crew, after capturing the French merchant vessel in Mopilia, they sailed for a long time throughout the Pacific Ocean until eventually they arrived in Easter Island, where they were captured by Chilean authorities and returned to Germany as well. A concern I had brought to my attention during the making of this video was that someone could argue that his trickery was unethical, and that it would make captains less likely to pick up ships that are genuinely stranded. And in this day and age, that might be true. But with the way information traveled in that time, that would be very unlikely, because most ships would be at sea for over 6 months. So in the time it would take to report this, and then for other ships to hear about it, the Seeadler would have already wrecked, and it wouldn't be applicable. On top of that, there was a certain code of honor that a captain held themselves to, and most would take the risk of a stranded ship being a trap than for them to be known to let sailors die at sea. I'm going to spend most of the rest of my time talking about Count Luckner, because his tales are the only ones that were documented past this point. So, once he was back in Germany, he became a folk hero of sorts, spending most of his time traveling around the country or sailing on the coast in his boat, Seeadler. During this time, he went to San Francisco and wrote a best-selling book, Sea Devil: Adventures from My Life. When the Nazis rose to power, he used his fame to secure his safety under Hitler, though he never supported the Nazis, going as far as to smuggle a Jewish woman out of the country in his boat. After World War II, he moved to Scotland and lived there until his death in 1966. I really think we could learn a lot from Count Luckner and his group. They took what is a very violent endeavor and turned it into something much more peaceful and enjoyable. It really goes to show that if you put your mind to it, you can make an endeavor like this one, no matter how violent it may seem, into a much more peaceful outcome. Now, I bet you're probably getting bored of hearing me ramble on about how great a thing this was, so I'll finish up and leave you with something to think about. If you were in Luckner's position, do you think you could have handled it in a non-violent manner, or would you have decided to follow the easy path, the path of destruction? And if so, why? Is it because that's what comes naturally to us? Is it possible that instead of there being a few violent and terrible people in this world, there are instead a lot of very nice people who make the effort to make good choices? And that is what I will leave you with to consider.